Let me ask you a question that almost every athlete and coach has asked at some point. If I'm not sore, did the workout even work? Somewhere along the way, soreness became the scoreboard for training. If I can barely walk outside the gym, then the workout must have been great. But if I feel great, the workout must not have done anything. If you're not sore, you must not be training hard enough. That's what we think as a society. But here's the truth. Muscle soreness is not a requirement for muscle growth. Muscle soreness does not equal muscle growth. And in many cases, chasing this feeling of soreness is actually slowing your progress down and not allowing you to get to your fullest potential. Today, I want to break down what soreness actually is, what actually drives muscle growth or hypertrophy, why you can grow muscle without being sore, and why constant soreness is usually a sign of poor programming and mismanagement of workload, not great training. When most people talk about soreness, they're really talking about DOMS, or delayed onset muscle soreness. DOMS is primarily linked to novelty movement, not understanding what the movement you're trying to do, or first time doing it, unaccustomed loading, high levels of eccentric stress, or a sudden spike in volume or intensity or both, which you're not prepared for. Soreness is not muscle growth happening. It's not a feeling. You will not feel muscle growth. It's a stress response. Your body reacting to something it wasn't prepared for. Soreness is a stress response you're not prepared for. You can get extremely sore from a new exercise, not knowing what to do. Poor movement efficiency usually goes along with new exercises. Too much volume too quickly, or simply changing tempos or range of motion that you're normally not getting into. None of these automatically mean you created a better stimulus for muscle growth, or muscle hypertrophy is driven by three primary mechanisms, but two matter the most. Here they are. Mechanical tension. What is mechanical tension? This is the biggest one when it comes to muscle hypertrophy. Mechanical tension comes from load on the muscle. Force production. What is force production made of? High threshold motor unit recruitment. In simple terms, how much force the muscle actually produces and for how long. This means heavy loads progressed over time, adding load, reps, or quality over time is what creates sustained growth through mechanical tension. Second, we look at metabolic stress. Metabolic stress is driven by time under tension. The more sets, the more reps, the more you accumulate allows for metabolites in the body to be able to help that muscle growth happen. Fatigue within the muscle working, that's what helps that metabolites be able to work and be able to drive muscle hypertrophy. This is where rep ranges, tempos, density matters, but notice something. Metabolic stress is driven by time, not soreness. Again, soreness is not a driver of muscle hypertrophy. You can create massive metabolic stress without being sore if the system is well managed, especially from a workload management standpoint. Multiple bodies of research have shown that muscle soreness does not correlate to strongly with hypertrophy. In some studies it does, but majority of the time we do not see that. You can gain muscle in training protocols that produce minimal soreness. Repeated exposure to a stimulus reduces soreness without reducing growth, because that repeated exposure allows you to drive those metabolic stress and mechanical tension. This is known as the repeated bout effect. As your body adapts, muscle damage decreases, soreness decreases, but your ability to produce force and tolerate load increases, which allows you to drive more mechanical tension that actually drives muscle hypertrophy. If soreness was required for muscle growth, advanced lifters would be sore all the time. And they're not. Let's think about that. They're stronger, more efficient, and better adapted to the training volume and training stimulus at which they are actually trying to do. Here's the key idea. Adaptation is not the same as irritation. Adaptation is not the same as irritation. When a program is well designed, Load progresses gradually, almost unnoticeably. You won't notice the change. Volume is accumulated over time. Movement quality improves, neurological efficiency increases. The result? Lifting heavier weights, more mechanical tension, which allows more muscle growth, which then allows the body to accumulate more meaningful sets and volumes, which then allows you to drive more metabolic stress. All these without adding excessive soreness. In fact, many high-level athletes grow and perform best when soreness is low and outputs are high. Chronic soreness is often a sign of poor volume management. That's a coaching issue. When you can't manage the volume at which the athlete is doing, that's where they get sore. Progressing too quickly, again, workload management. Excessive novelty. If we're always changing up exercises, the body is always trying to adapt and we never get that repeated bout effect. Lack of recovery, that's an athlete standpoint. In other words, you're asking the body to adapt faster than it's capable of adapting. That doesn't make you tougher, it makes progress inconsistent. Soreness should be occasional, mild, and over time, maybe here and there. But if soreness is a constant thing that you're chasing, we have to reevaluate what you're doing in the weight room and why you're even there. And when we think about a system, we have to understand if you're always constantly sore, your system is broken. And we want to talk about muscle growth without talking about nutrition. Muscle is built when mechanical tension sends the signal and nutrition provides the raw materials. If you don't have enough protein, enough calories to actually gain muscle hypertrophy, then no muscle hypertrophy is going to happen and you're just going to be sore for no reason. If you're undereating, protein synthesis is compromised, recovery slows, soreness lingers longer, progress stalls. Calories and proteins don't make you sore, but they absolutely determine whether training results in growth is the thing that's going to happen. One of the most overlooked aspects of hypertrophy is a neurological skill acquisition. I've talked about this in my other videos with Build, Blend, Express. As movement skill improves, you recruit more motor units, you produce more force, which drives more mechanical tension, you lift more load with better positions, which means you're putting more tension on the right muscles. That leads to higher mechanical tension, not just because you were chasing soreness, but because you actually become super efficient and strong in that specific movement pattern or skill acquisition for that specific exercises that allows you to go even heavier, which then allows you to drive more mechanical tension, and heavier loads applied intelligently during a long time period allows you to drive more muscle hypertrophy than ever being sore is. So let's bring this home. Does soreness equal muscle growth? Absolutely not. Muscle growth is driven by mechanical tension from load, metabolic stress from time, and proper nutrition to actually allow you to drive muscle hypertrophy and get bigger. And lastly, understanding that we need to improve neurological efficiency. You can grow muscle without ever being sore. And if you're sore all the time, it's probably not a badge of honor. It's a programming problem. And you have to understand that if you want to be the best you can possibly be, stop chasing soreness, start chasing progression, quality, and consistency. And remember, systems drive success. So start building.